can you tell the difference between a wine that's lean and one that's thin? And maybe even svelte, I don't know. How is TCA cork taint the Joker to wine's Batman? I love that comparison. And how do some wine pros, or why do some wine pros worship at the altar of acidity like shameless junkies? Well, tonight you're going to get those stories and insider tips. And now, if you're watching this video on the replay, please get into the comments and type the word replay or the city where you're logging in. I want to hear from you. I also want to hear from those who are here with me on the live stream. Get into the comments as well. I'm Natalie McLean, and I teach wine and food pairing classes online. And you just joined one of the most passionate groups of wine lovers who gather every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern to talk to the really most interesting people in the wine world. Now, I'm live streaming this video for the first time on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, but it's based on a recorded conversation that I had with our wonderful guest for my podcast, Unreserved Wine Talk. That said, I will be here live in the comments, so get in there. Let me know what stories or tips you're enjoying, what questions you still have, and I'll respond to you. All right, just before I introduce our guest, let me say that 3 of you are going to win a copy of her terrific new book, How to Sound Wine Smart. I just love that title. All you have to do is email me at natalie@nataliemclean.com and tell me you'd like to win a copy. It doesn't matter where you live. I'll choose 3 people randomly from those who contact me. All right, back to our guest. Maryse Chevriere is a writer, wine professional, and illustrator living in Boston, Massachusetts. A certified sommelier, her career in wine has spanned across New York City, San Francisco, and Boston, where she has held roles as a retail consultant, restaurant wine director, and distribution sales representative. Maryse's truly witty and whimsical Drunk Doodles have been published in print and online in Bon Appetit magazine, Food and Wine, Wine Enthusiast, and others. Her Instagram account, and you'll want to bookmark this, at Fresh Cut Garden Hose, was honored with the prestigious James Beard Award in the category of humor and nominated as a finalist for an IACP Digital Media Award. Maryse is a fervent proponent of living life glass half full, or at least she says, and maybe all the way full some days.
These days.
Yeah, exactly. And believes that learning and talking about wine should be accessible and as fun as drinking it is. And she joins us now from her home in Boston. Welcome, Maryse. We're so glad to have you here with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
All right, cool. So let's start with maybe one of your most memorable or mortifying wine moment when you were either a sommelier or wine director. You were working in a restaurant. Maybe tell us about that.
Yeah, I was working in San Francisco at a restaurant called Petite Crenn. It was Dominique Crenn's tasting menu restaurant. That was kind of her homage to her home of Brittany. It was like at the height of when the Chef's Table came out. I mean, she's always, super popular. But we had booked out a private wedding reception. So like a big deal, very important day for these folks. And I've had the brilliant idea of, wanting to surprise them with a little splash of rosé champagne. And instead of using common sense and setting the glasses down and pouring for everyone, I poured all the glasses on the tray, picked up the tray, and decided to try and hand them out. And as somebody was grabbing for one, trying to talk to me, the whole tray of like 20 glasses fell, mashed onto the bride, her brother, her husband.
Oh, no.
Everyone in front of my boss, Dominique Crenn, who was there also just to, make sure things were going smoothly, and they didn't. So, it's a good lesson, a good reminder not to take yourself too seriously, which is kind of, my whole ethos in wine.
I love that. And I love you're humble enough to admit this incident in public. So that must be something. The bride you gave them a story to dine out on for years, I'm sure.
Yeah. It's
after
like
they
rain on your wedding
dress.
day, maybe, champagne down your dress. Who knows?
That's great. Oh, my goodness. So tell us in a nutshell what this book is about and maybe how it's different from other books, wine books.
So the book, and if it's okay, I can show it.
Yes, please do. And we'll link to it for those who are just listening. Yes, lovely cover.
It's essentially it's an illustrated glossary for wine tasting note terms. And, I think tasting notes, wine terminology, the lingo, if ever in a book about wine, is just kind of like the back few pages, of a textbook kind of tome. And when I really didn't want to do a textbook, big, deep dive kind of wine book. I wanted something that was just fun to flip through if you're into wine, new, like a little bit more advanced, that it could, grab you. Or even if you just like looking at the pictures, it would be something kind of fun, coffee table-esque.
Yes.
To kind of just show that wine is a little bit more accessible. And I think also the lingo is the great barrier. I mean, with wine specifically, but any number of topics, it's a thing like, well, I don't feel comfortable saying I don't speak the language. And this is the idea, is to help you feel a little bit more comfortable speaking the language.
Absolutely, and it does that in a marvelous way. Now, for those just listening, they can't get a sense of your drawings. Well, they have to buy the book, of course. But it's so whimsical. How would you describe your style of illustrating? Can you compare it to something they might have seen before? I know you're unique in the world, but
no. I can draw, but like I always say that like it's very simple. It's like my little character is a little line drawn man.
So cute.
They don't have eyes. There's not really detail.
Uh-huh.
So it's just very simple, very stark, kind of more a play on just like the pun of the words.
Yes.
And I will do I used to only do just like one pop of color, and then I kind of have expanded since then. But I would say my little dude kind of looks like the Keith Haring kind of drawings. Like
the what, sorry? Keith Haring?
Keith Haring, yeah, I think would be
okay.
The closest.
Is he from a comic strip or something, or what is Keith? I'm not familiar with Keith Haring.
He looks it just like, I'm trying to think. It's a artist, but he makes kind of very simple characters that have a similar kind of look, just like a line drawn kind of person with a round kind of head. And I
they're
like,
great.
That is kind of similar to my guy. I think I got
that
name.
But you're
right.
so fun the way you put him in big wine glasses or pile on fruit, and I mean it's hard to describe. So truly, you have to get the book. But all right, sorry for throwing you for a loop there, because I was just thinking, can I compare? But
no,
I'm sure an artist doesn't want to be compared to somebody else.
No, inspiration is everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. So what was the most surprising insight you discovered while writing your book or illustrating it?
I mean, I think surprising. It wasn't not necessarily surprising, but like the biggest reminder was just how much of a Pandora's box wine is. I think like I was saying, I set out to really not make it super text heavy, and I would write something and realize, well, I can't say this without explaining that. And so I do include like some, mini deep dives, like little 101 sections throughout the book to kind of support things that are maybe that need a little bit more explanation. But it's just, wine is just such a complex and vast topic.
Mm-hmm. It is. That's why you get Jancis Robinson with her annual edition of 800,000 words or whatever it is. Yeah, the Oxford Companion to Wine.
Exactly.
But yeah, I empathize. Yeah, that would be a challenge. So that's kind of the most challenging thing. But now you got into wine reluctantly after 4 years of food and beverage writing. What was the moment that kind of converted you?
So yeah, I've been covering beverages, food and beverages in general for this startup food website in New York, and I had an assignment to go interview this bartender at a wine bar called Terroir, and just in speaking with him, it was like maybe like half an hour kind of interview, not even that much time, but the way he spoke about wine was so different than anything I'd ever thought about it as. He was so excited about it. He made his job sound so fun. And it really made me feel like, you can learn so much reading and writing about it, but I think I personally also am just like the best learner by doer. And so a couple months later, I was like, are you guys hiring? And ended up getting a job, at a new branch that they were opening.
Well, that's great. Do you recall his name? I'm just
his
curious.
Name is Tanner Wally. He and his, I believe now wife, have a really cool wine bar in Northern California called Valley Bar and Bottle that I haven't been to, but I've heard is amazing. Yeah.
Great. I have to put that on my to-do list for both cities. Now, you also worked as a harvest cellar intern in Alsace, in France. What's the smell or sound maybe from that cellar that you still kind of pull up when you're trying to explain maybe what natural wine means to a skeptic?
I mean, the smell that I will always think of from that cellar is the smell of Gewürztraminer. I feel like, I mean, it's a very aromatic wine, but I feel like I will never get that wrong in a blind. It was just, I think they were doing their first attempt at making an orange wine from it, and it was just sitting in there fermenting, and the whole place just smelled like roses. And I was
Wow.
like, oh, that's it. Like the Gewürztraminer, that I will always associate that smell with that.
Yeah.
And it was just such a cool place, and it definitely was. It wasn't like I was smelling oak or other, other things. That it was just kind of like the wine as it was, and he was a great, proponent of. I mean, they were natural, biodynamic, but I love that he was very much like, not super woo woo about it. He
Right,
was.
right. And it can get off the deep end on the woo woo
Yeah,
side. Like,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and then you've also described natural wine as wine without lipstick, I think it was. Was it
Without
something
makeup
like
on.
that? Without makeup on, right.
Yeah.
That's a neat way to put it. Like maybe expand on that for people who aren't as familiar with natural wine.
I think the goal with natural wine is to just be the clearest picture, clearest picture of the grapes, the vineyard, the place of that moment. So it's like if you just took a photo
Yes.
and you didn't put a filter on it, and that photo was the wine that you're drinking. That's kind of my interpretation of natural wine, and it can go in a million different directions. It's tricky because there's no actual definition of it and a hundred other things. But I just think, for me, they're some of the most exciting, interesting, kind of fun wines to drink right now.
That's another great metaphor, no filters. Now, your jobs since then have included retail consultant and distribution sales rep in Boston. Which of those jobs was either hardest to do or hardest on the ego, or maybe you could share a story from either position that might illustrate what it was like to do one of those jobs?
I mean, in terms of ego, you try not to have ego, and try not to, what I want to drink is not necessarily what somebody else is going to want to drink. So be open-minded. But I mean, retail is really tough. And I think, I was working in the financial district location of a great wine shop in Boston, and you would get like the bros that would come in with their expense account and want to just get a wine because it was from a certain region or a certain grape and hit a certain price point, and that can be just kind of a little disheartening. It's like you're not really able to have that conversation, but if that's what somebody wants, it's what somebody wants. That's great. And you just kind of wait for the people that do want to geek out, nerd out with you and talk and actually have a little bit more of an exchange, because that's really what makes that job fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember talking to staff at local wine shops here, and they said, we have the best job in retail. Because, I mean, you're selling your passion if you're
Yeah.
into wine, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah, it's great.
And you're going to
Now
try
you,
so much. You're going to meet people. Like,
yes,
it's great.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Now, you've described yourself as drawn to underdog grapes like Riesling, Chenin Blanc, and others. Who or what got you hooked on those? Was it back to that Alsatian winery, or have there been other influences?
Terroir is probably like the ultimate influence for everything. I mean, that place was the biggest push into the deep end for wine knowledge I could have ever asked for. But, they have a program still called Summer of Riesling, where the only white wine by the glass is Riesling. And so it was 25 white wines, and somebody would come in saying, hey, I want a Chardonnay, hey, I want a Sauv Blanc, whatever it was that they wanted. We had to find a wine that fit that within Riesling. And it was just such a cool challenge and a great way to like force people to have the conversation and to, drink outside of the box a little bit.
That's great. I love the challenge.
Yeah,
It's a
fun.
creative way to do it, to show the diversity and range of Riesling. Now, let's talk about your Instagram account at Fresh Cut Garden Hose, which I just love. Let's first start with how did you start or when did you start, or why did you start illustrating tasting notes before we get to the name of the Instagram account?
I started it, well, I was studying for my certified som exam and I was having some wine, as you do, and I got a little bored, and I was decided instead to flip through Instagram. I started kind of just, a lot of it was following, different wine professionals accounts that were showing bottles and tasting notes, and just kind of had a moment of in my, wine haze that I think I could draw this. Like, this is such a visual thing that they're describing. Like, what would that look like, and then I just flipped over a tasting note card and threw it up. I wanted to saw the reaction.
That's great.
Yeah.
And tell us how your literary agent who represented you to get this book to your publisher, how did she discover you?
She, shout out to Andriana, she went to a wine bar in DC that I've been working with for years and years and years now. They reached out and had asked me when they were opening if they could buy some illustrations to wallpaper their bathroom.
Love that.
So when she was there one time, saw the illustrations, thought this is super cool, reached out for a custom illustration, and then after that had said, like, have you ever thought about turning this into a book? And I said, oh my God, I've been trying to turn this into a book for 10 years.
Yeah.
So
great.
it was a wonderful, just a happy coincidence kind of moment.
That's awesome. And I'm just curious, how long did the process take to get your book placed?
Once we had the proposal together, that was pretty quick. I'd say within a couple months we were getting offers, which was really exciting.
That's great.
Yeah. But then it took maybe like a year and a half.
Yeah.
Two, something like that.
That's standard. Yes. Year and a half would be rushing it in the publishing industry. But it's a long pipeline. And so that bar in DC, that was called Revelers Hour?
Revelers Hour, yes. If you're ever in DC, it is incredible.
Okay. Another one to add to the list. Now, your first cartoon was a Vietnamese red from northern Italy you described as never thought I'd see so many roses in one room, which is quite poetic. Where were you when you did that doodle?
Oh, so that note is was written by Levi Dalton, who has a
podcaster.
Podcast, yeah. So I obviously have tasting notes and as I drink and things, but what I loved was looking for inspiration from other people. So I just came across his tasting note, and I thought that was really visually evocative. Could be drawn relatively easily in a simple kind of way. I was just in my little room in San Francisco.
Okay.
Yeah, after work.
And it struck you. Yeah, that's great. And do you remember the first wine term or psalm speak that clicked for you and continues to be one of your favorite terms to use?
Yeah, absolutely. I think right when I was working in wine and starting to get into it, I was out at a wine bar, kind of describing what I was looking for. I think with wine, there's so much flavor-wise that can be very subtle and very kind of hard to put your finger on. And so I really gravitate towards things that are very aromatic and really kind of in your face, and that, it can be like a little gratuitous in that way. And I was saying this, and the song that was, helping me was just like, so something that was loud. And I was like, oh yeah, loud. Exactly. And the way that it sounded like what it was, I loved that. And I still use that one.
I want a loud wine tonight. Yes.
Yeah. Just in your face that you can kind of grab onto. Yeah.
That's great. All right, let's get to Fresh Cut Garden Hose for your Instagram account. How did you come up with that name, or what was the inspiration?
Well, from the documentary Psalm, I basically borrowed Ian Cobble's tasting note, kind of that movie was so popular at the time that I started this, which was in 2015. And it would just seem to exemplify kind of the whole vibe that I was going for, of just ridiculous sounding, how ridiculous it can sound when wine professionals speak.
So he was describing a particular wine as having the smell of fresh cut garden, a Riesling.
I think it's been a while since I've seen it, but I'm pretty sure that would seem right to me. But
Well, I wonder which brand of fresh cut garden hose. I mean, there's a lot of different hose brands out there.
that's true. It's true.
Couldn't he be more specific?
Yeah.
And for those who aren't familiar, the documentary Somm, short for sommelier, chronicles the journey of several, I think they're all men, trying to study for their master sommelier designation. So they're practicing and they're studying and they're tasting and they're coming up with weird terms like fresh cut garden hose. And do you know how he reacted when he found out about the name of your account, or has he? Are we springing it on him now?
I don't know that I've ever heard from him.
Okay.
Or I hope he would be flattered.
Yeah.
You
Hopefully
know?
we didn't put a crimp in his hose. But
yeah, exactly.
he's immortalized his words.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know that I've ever done one of his tasting notes, or that I had ever heard from him. But like I said, hopefully he'd be flattered and not, offended that maybe I kind of took his term. He's obviously much more famous.
And what's the most misused tasting descriptor you've ever heard in relation to wine?
Sweet.
Sweet? Oh.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, interesting.
I think people use sweet when it's not technically correct. I understand why it happens.
Mm-hmm.
Rarely are you going to encounter a red wine that is actually sweet, and most of the white wine that is out there, at least here in the U.S., is dry.
Yes.
So I would encourage people, as I do in the book, to use other words instead. Fruit forward, fruit driven, lush, juicy, like so many other things, because technically it's probably not sweet.
Yes, because technically, as you say, most wines are fermented to complete dryness. All the sugar has been turned into alcohol. Mm-hmm. So, if someone measured it chemically, there's no sugar, very little sugar left in from the grapes. But of course, if it's made from really ripe grapes that have these luscious, fruity, juicy aromas, people will associate it with sweet fruit and sweet, but it's not. It's, as you say, fruity.
Yeah.
That's great. Now, you say you used to chase the wildest, most roll your eyes tasting notes for material. What's a note someone wrote that was too pretentious even for you to draw, or one that you don't have to name names, but was there one that, oh my God, I can't illustrate that?
I feel like I think I did illustrate one where I was like, this is really maybe kind of like jumping the shark.
Okay, which one is that?
It was like, he was talking about a Bosomy cherry that was in a spearmint bodice, and like there was petrichor and there was like rocks in the oven, and it was just too much.
Wow.
Too much.
Wow.
To the point where I was like, what does this mean? What does this mean?
Bosomy? Cherry? Okay, yeah. Petrichor, if anyone's wondering, is that nice smell you get after fresh rain has hit the rocks and you get that clearing and fresh spring smell. But that's quite the combination that this person was putting together. Okay. Yeah. And you illustrated, how did you illustrate that?
I think I try to do it as literally as possible. I had a cherry in a bodice,
in a corset.
In a corset, in the kitchen. Taking out whatever all the tasting notes. It just wasn't as. I think the ones that are hardest to draw, and the tasting notes in general, just if you're speaking to somebody that are like not as maybe grabbing, are just like the lists of fruits, non-fruits things. I think for me,
fruit salad.
Yeah, exactly. Like. It's much more evocative and interesting if you're kind of like describing a personality, which I have a section of in the book, like that is a little bit more like encapsulating and a little bit more relatable than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you write that wine pros can slip into psalm speak or parcel tongue, trying to out-weird each other. And of course, parcel tongue is the fictional language of snakes in the Harry Potter series. Now, can you give us a flagrant example, or was that the one you just shared? Is there any others that come to mind?
I think that's the
one
that sticks out in my mind as just being like really, really kind of wild. But there are I've seen like almost like haikus used as like wine tasting notes. You find crazy things on Instagram.
Yeah.
But,
well, and your boss, for instance, described a wine where a Moroccan whorehouse meets a coastal redwood forest in the spring. What was that wine? Or was he on LSD or something as well?
That it is colorful. It was a Pinot Noir from California. Pei, I believe,
Okay.
was the producer, and was it correct? It's that's what she felt. So
Wow.
I can't say if it was right or wrong, but I will say even the more obnoxious tasting notes. Don't you want to try that wine?
Yeah,
Like
it does make me curious.
yeah, it
Yes.
makes you kind of want to be like, yeah,
Yeah.
I
Am I
need to
going to get
know.
Moroccan whorehouse
Yeah,
or, Algerian or something? But no doubt the winery has posted that tasting note on their website.
Imagine
Probably
so.
not.
Yeah.
I don't know. Now, you were pregnant while you were writing this book and not
Yes.
drinking. Oh my God. Well, congratulations for
Thank you.
doing that. Do you think that changed the way you wrote it or the final book at all?
I think it made it tricky. Certainly, I started the drawings as like my wind down thing of like I would have a glass of wine and draw, and that was fun. So like having to dissociate that was kind of a bummer. And then with the tasting notes that were like, I was really having to rely on my taste memory a lot, which when you're pregnant and your hormones are crazy is a whole other a whole other thing. But it would have been nice if I was trying to distinguish between terms that are, like big synonyms, to be able to like have a little side by side, or I have drinking games in the book to help people hopefully try to understand terms. It would have been nice to be able to like do those in real time to be like, oh yeah, like this is more
Sure.
velvety than silky, and whatever, what have you. That
Yeah.
would have been nice.
I know when I was pregnant, there was the nausea, but then I got this heightened sense of smell too that made everything not as attractive as you might think. So I don't know
Yeah.
if that was happening to you either, or certain smells would be really strong and kind of distorted. But
I feel
anyway.
like my senses were like dulled. I don't know.
Oh yeah? Oh,
Yeah.
lucky you. I wished for that. Please stop the onslaught.
Yeah.
Now, your voice is witty, it's irreverent, it's kind. Was there a specific line, sentence, or illustration that the publisher kind of pushed back and then you fought hard to keep it and it ended up in the book?
No, honestly, I was pretty lucky. They were super supportive of whatever I was going with. I think actually sometimes they maybe had to like rein me in where I was trying to like go for a joke and like add a little extra sass onto something where it didn't need it, or maybe it was
Right.
like borderline, like this could be interpreted as kind of rude or whatever it was. And so we had to like rein a couple things back, I think.
Sure.
But
sure.
otherwise they were like, no, go for it, which was great.
That's great. Great to have that support. Now, you write that swirling wine is like waking up a genie in a bottle, which is, I love that. Maybe tell us about a wine that was a totally different animal, pre and post swirling.
I mean, I think any wines that are especially like reductive or a little volatile, it helps to swirl to kind of blow some of that stuff off. I remember, or like older wines too. Like we had a wine at Christmas. I had a birth year vintage that I waited too long on, but it was like super closed initially, and over time, thankfully, was able to kind of open up a little bit more and actually kind of showed its personality a bit, which was
Oh,
really
that's
nice.
great. That's great. Now, you give readers permission to use highly personal taste references when describing aromas. I know personally I often use Band-Aids, and I know it's not unique. I've heard it used before, but
Yeah.
people who know me go, Band-Aids? But anyway,
Yeah.
but what's your reference of your own that maybe others find weird or is unique to you?
I the one I tend to use that it makes sense to me that doesn't make sense to other people is sticky.
Okay.
When I get a smell that's like a yeasty kind of smell, that
Yeah.
like doughy kind of just like fermenting, something about that smell makes me think of stickiness.
Sticky.
But
Yeah.
I don't know that I would say that and then somebody would fully understand where I was trying to go with it. But when I have like a champagne, like a really like, yeasty kind of champagne, that's usually one of the first words on my tasting sheet.
Nice and sticky champagne. I like that. Mine comes from hospital rooms or hospital halls, like Band-Aids. It's usually, I think, Bordeaux wood or something is going on there. I'm not quite sure what it is. Now, pyrazine is the compound responsible for the green bell pepper notes in Cabernet Franc. How do you illustrate that? Was it just big green peppers? Or?
So I like to have, as much as possible, just this is the way my brain works, like pop culture references. So I have, for example, like drawings that maybe drawing that references Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz, things like that. James and the Giant Peach in the book. And so for this one, when I heard green, the first thing I thought of was It Isn't Easy Being Green, which is a Kermit the Frog reference. Yeah. But I, for copyright purposes, could not draw Kermit the Frog. So I have, a bunch of the different kind of green flavors you can find in wines that have pyrazines or have really prominent pyrazines, and a Kermit-like frog at the top saying like a silly little quote.
Kermit-like. Okay. And garrigue, which I love as a word, but always felt very vague and intimidating, but it's that, at least the way I interpret it, that smoky, peppery, wild Mediterranean herb aroma like thyme and rosemary and that sort of thing. It really makes sense if you've stood on those hills or just smelled herbs in a supermarket. How did you illustrate that?
It's one of my favorite drawings in the book. Because like I was saying before, the drawings are mostly very stark and very simple, very white. And for this one, I can show you, actually I have the page.
Sure.
It's super immersive, so it's my little guy just in a field. That kind of feeling that you're completely surrounded by those herbs, that you're out in nature. And I just like that it's a full page and a bit of departure from the style.
Love it. Very creative. Now you quote a wine described as riding in a giant seashell along a hot sandy beach next to water of stone fruit and tropical music. My goodness, what grape was that, by the way?
That was a Viognier that person was describing, which surprised me too. I mean, the tropical stone fruit I can see, but the seashell, beach aspect would make me think more like Albarino, maybe even Chablis potentially, if you're only thinking about the seashellness. But yeah, so it was one of those wild ones, that I was seeking out.
I love that. But, the more we stretch our imagination in different ways through words and illustrations, I think the more capacity we have to name what we're thinking, what we're smelling, what we're tasting, what we're feeling.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You release that with this book. You confess an affection for lanolin, which I love too, that wax and wet wool note in Loire Chenin Blanc. When did you first encounter that wine or smell?
We had a wine on the list at Terroir that was a Domenem one, Russian one, Chenin, and they're known for librarying their wine, so it was an older vintage, probably I think a 90s vintage Chenin, and it just had that smell, and it was one of those things, again, being newer to wine at the time, where you just didn't think about like those kinds of things existing in wine and how cool that a grape can make that smell. And yeah, I love savory flavors. I always think are just some of the most fun ones to discover in wine.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you write that wine pros tend to be shameless acid junkies, praying at the altar of it. What does that mean? For people who are not familiar with acid junkies,
Just that wine professionals kind of unanimously just love high acid wines. I think part of that has...
What would be an example? Like the Riesling?
Riesling is a great example. Chenin is a great example. Pinot Noir, Nebbiolo. I think, they're wines that are great to pair with food. So I think that's probably something that's easy to gravitate towards. And also, acidity is really refreshing, right? Like, so if you're drinking a lot, as you do, in this job, it's nice to have something that doesn't feel like it's just like heavy and weighing on your palate. Yeah, you want something you can just like drink a lot of,
Yeah,
easily.
it's almost the opposite of astringency from tannin. It's like it makes your mouth water, so that's why it's food friendly too. So yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Acid, yeah. Now you compare laser-like acidity to Luke Skywalker's lightsaber coming to life. So laser-like acidity, how do you differentiate that? Or are you just getting poetic? Laser-like acidity versus scattered acidity? Or I know I'm like really picking here, but I just wonder because I hear it all the time, laser-like acidity.
Yeah, I think it's become a popular word just because it does give you that like easy visual, but I think wines that have that intense acidity do feel like they're just cutting down your palate, like it's just like a flash across your tongue.
Right.
And so I think that's it's a great word to kind of help people understand that. Plus, I think it sounds kind of cool.
It does, and the lightsaber's perfect metaphor for it. Now, you also have punchy acidity in your book, and you is, quote, Mike Tyson in your mouth, uppercutting and throwing jabs with lemon lime gloves on. I love that. That's lemon lime gloves. Which wine recently delivered that 1-2 combination for you? Was it a Riesling or some other type of wine?
I mean, for sure there could be, but I think recently I was pouring some like spring whites for an account, and we had a Chocolina from the Basque Country, Spain. Okay. And that's like, I mean, it's almost like a seltzer, like a lemon lime seltzer. It's like that light and effervescent and just citrus heavy. It's a great spring wine.
Now, you warn readers off the word or adjective smooth because it's been overused into meaninglessness. What word do you wish drinkers would use more instead?
I mean, I think my beef with smooth is more just using it as a standalone word. Okay, so I would guess from that you want a wine that's, not tannic, easy to drink. Okay, but like, what else? Do you want, like, what's the, if you're if you're talking to somebody in a shop and you say, I want a smooth wine, like, maybe give me a price point, tell me about the occasion that you're going for, what's the situation that we're going to be drinking in, what food are you pairing it with, like, do you want something that's juicy or maybe more earthy, and just, and I think smooth is just too, it's too broad.
Yeah, no, it's true. And now I love this, you describe tannins as clinging to your palate like a desperately codependent ex. That is great. Tannins, of course, create that astringency, that mouth-drying feeling like oversteeped tea or eating walnuts. Was there a specific bottle that really gripped at you like a desperately codependent ex?
I mean, definitely the first, the times I've had gone to a tasting where there's a bunch of Barolos, like that'll really do it for you. Or even like a Mourvedre, like a beds-based red, like a Bandol red, where it's just like, ooh, this is like grippy, that X, or like chewy, like it's like in your mouth and you gotta do something to release its grip.
Yeah, it's true. Now, the difference between lean and thin trips up a lot of people. Yeah. Maybe give us a side-by-side comparison of a thin versus a lean wine.
I mean, lean is more like that laser-like wine. Lean feels like it's, again, like direct on your palate. It's not kind of encompassing it's not like filling your whole mouth. It kind of is more direct, whereas thin I think of as more of a flaw in the wine, or a fault, I guess, if I'm correct, where it's like it just feels like it's supposed to have substance and it doesn't. It feels just kind of like it's watered down. It's like its personality is just kind of tempered.
That's true. Yeah.
But they do sound like, if you were just reading the words as regular words, they sound very similar. Like they could be describing something very similar, and they're used very differently.
They do. Now, I love this. You frame wine personalities the way the Sex and the City women framed friendship. So, what's the wine in your cellar or at the restaurant that's pure Carrie Bradshaw, the lead, Sarah Jessica Parker, embodies her?
In my cellar, I actually have a wine from the Finger Lakes.
Okay.
So Carrie, ultimate New York girly. So I think that would be a good representation for her. And it is a co-ferment of Gewurz and Pinot Noir. And it was like fermented in a concrete egg, all this like cool stuff. So it's like, like she, a little funky, a little different, very much its own person, but still very like stylish and cool.
That's great. Now you call glau glau, that's the French onomatopoeic word for glug glug, the sound of wine being poured, so glau glau, cooler than the word crushable. Why is that?
Oh, I think for that I was just saying, cooler because it's French, just.
I see, yes.
But, using a French term makes you sound a little bit fancier, and definitely if you're in any kind of like natural wine bar or shop, use that word, or you will hear it used around you, and you'll fit right in.
Glau glau. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Glau glau?
I would say glue glue.
Glue glue. Okay.
Glue glue. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Glue,
I
glue,
do want to be part of the cool kids, so I do know. I have to know how to pronounce it. Glue glue. What is she saying? Glau glau.
Glue glue.
Okay. And then you have porch pounder.
Yeah.
So how would that be different from crushable and glue glue?
I mean, it's kind of splitting hairs. I think you could probably use them interchangeably. I think porch pounder is more. I think the way I talk about it in the book is more just like wines. It's a wine. It's great. It's really easy to drink, but you're not really like focusing on the wine. It's just a wine that like drinks easily. So like any Pinot Grigio on a 95-degree day, rosé on the patio with your girlfriends, like that's kind of what I think of more as a porch pounder. Whereas glue glue, like you could apply that probably to more serious wines.
Okay.
If you wanted to.
Good to know the distinctions here. Yeah, and then I've heard the word sessionable, like I guess you just have it in one go, sessionable. Anyway.
Yes, yeah. Yes, sessionable is definitely in that same wheelhouse.
Now, you describe hedonistic wines as having Roman Empire energy. What does that mean? Are they at the height of their powers and about to come apart, or what's going on with those?
I think to be honest, a little bit I had like the idea of the drawing that I wanted to do for that, but
what
just
was
like
that?
this, like Roman. Like symposium, we're drinking, we're enjoying the land, enjoying each other, kind of debaucherous setting, and so basically hedonistic is just like a wine that is over the top, opulent, excessive. Like I think of I got to go to a lunch hosted by Chateau d'Yquem, and it was like 5 different courses of Chateau d'Yquem Sauterne, and you're like, okay, well this is extra. I'm not mad at it, but this is a lot.
That's good. Yeah, I can see very Roman Empire. Like definitely the days before the fall when excess was the key word. Now I love this. You say cork taint is the Joker to wine's Batman. What does that mean for you?
Oh, it was just I think again like kind of like an easier maybe pop culture reference of just like what it's one of wine's most well known kind of foes.
Yes.
The fault that you that you encounter probably most commonly in wine.
True. Yeah, and Brettanomyces. Also sometimes considered a fault, also desired by some people. You write, can smell like a wine raised in a horse barn, rolling around in manure hay and sidling up to sweaty saddles, which is great. I love that. Are you pro or against Brett? The cool kids call it Brett.
I'm pro. I mean, I'm pro within reason. I'm not, I'm not gonna like, just because something's like really outlandish or more extreme, I'm not going to say like, oh, well, that's amazing. It's like, well, no, if it feels like that's the only thing that's really that wine is giving you, where it's like you're not
Right.
noticing anything else, that for me can border into territory where it's like, well, that's, that feels one note, that's not as exciting.
Right.
But certainly with like, the right little bit, it can definitely add like a very pleasant funk.
Yeah, yeah. And reduction, you say, at its worst smells like rotten eggs and garbage and burned rubber peeling off in the getaway car. Can those wines be saved with aerating them and decanting them?
Yeah, it certainly can help. Just to give it like if it's like a younger wine, you're not trying to like decant for sediment, just toss it in the decanter and give it a hard decant and just kind of just give it like a good, essentially like a shaking, waking up kind of thing.
Sure.
I'd say it's always worth trying.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with that kind of decanting things with like condition of wine. Like when do I drink this bottle at what age? It's like there's a lot of gray, there's not a lot of black and white, and you have to kind of get comfortable with experimenting, and I think that's important too.
Yeah. Now, you write that the 1980s, quote, called and want their Chardonnay description back, and that we were conditioned like Pavlov's dogs to expect butter from this grape. So, how do you change a Chardonnay's hater's mind? There's that whole thing, ABC, anything but Chardonnay,
Right.
because it got
Yeah.
so popular, so buttery, and so fruit bomby or whatever.
Yeah.
How do you kind of talk to someone who say, "Oh no, I don't drink Chardonnay"?
I mean, I think my go-to has always been to pour something like a Chablis. It's
From northern France, which is Chardonnay. Yeah,
right, exactly. It's like
not oaked.
yeah, it's a lean, very mineral-driven kind of expression of Chardonnay usually, and it's the opposite of if you have in your mind the classic California like oaky butter bomb. It's a great like, no, but this is Chardonnay too. Or you could do something from like Alto Adige, which they do, unoaked Chardonnays as well. Like there's other great examples. A Chardonnay from the Jura could be a cool one too. Just be like, see, it's because the grape itself is neutral. It's really just taking on what it's given. So there are other expressions of it for sure.
Yeah. Now, your pairing chapter argues red wine with fish isn't a crime. What's the dish and bottle combination that would convert the most stubborn adherent to not doing that combination?
I mean, I think like the classic example is probably something like a Pinot Noir with a salmon.
Why does it work? Yeah.
You have a wine that's higher in acidity, not very tannic, and the fish is a little bit like fattier, so that combination can be really nice as well. And the wine has some really lovely like earthier notes to it, but also some like great like pinky like red fruit notes. And I think it can just really work well together.
Cool. Now, you suggest decanting champagne, which some drinkers would find heretical. What's the bottle of bubbles you decant without apology? Like, are there certain bottles you decant and not others? Would it champagne or other sparkling wines? I mean, how do you decide?
I think it's not something I would do often, but I certainly think it's fun to see what probably more with like an aged champagne. I wouldn't do a prosecco for just a generic kind of prosecco, because those lose their bubbles more quickly anyways. But yeah, like a serious like vintage champagne, it could be cool to see what that's like with some decantation. I mean, actually, the boss that had that Moroccan whorehouse, one of the best things she ever taught me was to kind of let champagne go flat and taste the base wine. Because the bubbles can be distracting. They're lovely, but they can be distracting in a good way, and so it can be easier to hide like a base wine that has some potential like problems with it. Not problems, but
Interesting. Yeah.
isn't as
It's not
great.
as strong. Yeah.
So if you want to drink a champagne when it's flat and that wine is still good, That's a sign of a good champagne, was her theory, and I've always loved that.
That's an interesting take. I love that.
Yeah.
All right, just some quick questions. In the Museum of Maryse Chevriere, which three objects would be on the central display?
Ooh, well, not an object, but my daughter, my daughter.
Sure. This is what I created and I'm most proud of.
Yes, most proud of, yeah.
She's only 7 months?
It's only 7 months, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So new little lady, freshly discovering food, who is, I think, going to be an acid hound because she's already sucking on lemons and limes.
Wow, that's unusual. Good for her.
Really
She'll
is.
have a wide-ranging palate then.
I know.
For a baby
so
to have that. Yeah.
So
That's great.
strange. I mean, sweet cheesy. My wedding ring, my husband is like my best friend, biggest supporter.
Nice.
Next to my mom. And then my James Beard. Honestly, like that is my biggest.
Yeah. That's pretty prestigious, that award.
achievement.
Yeah.
And it was for humor too, which was so cool. It wasn't even
awesome.
like a wine award. It's a category that doesn't exist anymore.
Wow. Do you know why they took it away? That sounds like a great category to have.
I don't know. But I was just, it was just such like the whole point of what I, try to do, which is just make wine fun and accessible and not feel snobby. And so to have that kind of all come together in that way was a really proud moment.
That's fantastic. Now, tell us about your favorite childhood food and what you pair with it today as an adult who loves wine.
Ooh, not to make me sound bougie, but I did love a lobster roll. Still love a lobster roll. I probably would do some champagne with that, or my mom's carbonara. I had what do we have? We had a vermentino that was actually like really kind of juicy and had like some really nice kind of like lush like fruity notes to it. Okay. And I love like a salty and sweet combination. Or salty and fruity. I'm doing my own fault here. It's saying sweet when it's not actually sweet, but something that's like fruity and salty is a great,
that sounds great. Combo. And if you could share a bottle of wine with anyone outside the wine world, living or dead, who would that be?
Well, my cultured answer would be Nina Simone because I just love her music and I just think she's the coolest.
Who is it? Sorry, I missed that.
Nina Simone.
Nina Simone. Yeah, the Greek singer with the straight dark hair. No. Wait a minute.
The black jazz singer.
Okay, I'm mixing two people up. Yeah.
And but if I was being honest, it would be Andy Cohen. He's kind of a he runs the channel Bravo. And
what does he
it's a big like reality TV channel basically,
okay.
And it's my escapism. And so I would just ply him with like a 17% Priorat to get all the gossip.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's real. That's great.
That's probably what I'd actually do.
I love that. And if you could put up a billboard in downtown Boston, what would it say?
I mean, aside from buy my book,
yes,
I think it would be, Boston is a wonderful food scene. It has great talent here, but a lot of the restaurants are so heavily either like seafood or Italian. So I would want a billboard that says like support and encourage people to eat outside of that box.
Okay. Yeah.
I would really love that.
Yeah. And if a listener walks away from this conversation remembering only 3 things today, it could be from what we've talked about or other things that you want to mention now. What 3 things would those be?
I think one, really importantly, don't let the fear of sounding stupid stop you from participating or having an opinion or having a voice. That's in life, but also with wine.
Yeah.
I think push yourself to drink outside of the box. Don't just stick to the same grapes, the same regions, same producers. Try a grape you like from a different region. The more you drink, the more you know, the more fun you have. And then I think the other one would be, and this is not hopefully this doesn't come across in like a snobby way, but drink with, if you can, or talk about wine with people who know more than you do.
Right.
Because
sure. That's like life too. Up your game. Yeah.
You'll really just get some more out of it. So like if you are at a place that has a wine pairing and you can go for it, go for it. Like, then you'll understand that person's philosophies to pairings. If you can go to your wine shop and they have a producer or a rep there that can talk to you about the wines in a, more exciting way than just like a, the card on, on the shelf. That to me is the way to like really get into it.
That's great. Excellent advice. And as we wrap up our conversation, Maryse, is there anything you want to mention before we do?
No, I mean, I don't think so. I feel like we covered a good amount here.
Yeah, we did. It was great.
Yeah.
Now, we will be publishing this podcast episode and the video after your book is published. It's July 14th is your pub date, I think.
Right. Yeah.
So if you're listening, watching this now, Maryse's book is available, so go buy it. Either, I'm assuming, online, in bookstores, wherever books are sold.
Yeah, pre-order. You can go to the Simon & Schuster website and find it, but it's on all the big websites. But of course, if there are local bookstores that you want to support, please do that.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Maryse, this has been fantastic. I love, again, your creativity, your answers, your whimsical drawings, which I hope people will go and buy the book and see for themselves. So thank you so much for spending your time with us today.
Thank you so much. I had so much fun. I appreciate it.
Okay. I'll say bye for now, but don't log off.
Okay.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.